Welcome to another episode of Celebrating Small Family Businesses. And today we are celebrating Kyle and Jojo Struebing. And I just realized I don't exactly have the name of your business. I know that you guys are franchisors in alternative therapies and you have float tanks. What is the name of your business?
Yeah, our business is Altered States Wellness.
That's it. Sorry.
Oh, we actually just recently rebranded, so sometimes we have to second guess our own business name too. So
Okay. Yeah, your previous name had to do with I think included the town that you're in, right?
yes,
Wellness.
yes, that's
Okay,
great. Float
cool.
Compel, but yeah.
Well, you've had quite a journey. Doing a little bit of research, Jojo, your bio said you started in the tech space, working with a couple of little companies like Microsoft and HP. Those are definitely not small businesses. And
Yeah,
then
may
you
not
guys
ever
got
work.
into franchising. So let's start there. How did you go make that leap?
Yeah, yeah. So we were both in sales. We were in the sales world for years and years, and started kind of climbing the corporate ladder. And I felt this strong pull toward kind of want to dabble in entrepreneurship. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I was finding I wasn't enjoying my day job as much as I thought I would. You know, when you get out of college, you're so excited and you start doing this job and then you're like, wait, this isn't really what I enjoy, right? So I was tired of talking about technology all day and started looking into things that I did enjoy, which is wellness. And we started exploring franchises in that space. So we wound up moving forward with a CBD franchise, and the rest was history. We grew to like 3 locations with that franchise. We really enjoyed it. You wound up leaving your job first, and then eventually I was able to leave mine, and we sold 2 of those locations. They were profitable, and we were kind of in over our head managing 3 locations. So we went back just to owning one. And that location evolved a ton over time. So we were with a franchise that wasn't really the most, I don't know, I guess, supportive and helpful. So over the years, we kind of started doing our own thing to drive traffic. And one of those things was adding in services, which was float therapy. So our customers wound up really loving the float therapy. It just coincided with CBD perfectly. And eventually it grew so much that people were coming into our store saying, why am I coming to do float therapy in your CBD store, right? So we left the franchise on good terms and rebranded to a float therapy studio. So have been spending the past few years focusing on growing the services side, and we've seen an opportunity there to expand via franchising. And the great thing that has been for us is, having been a franchisee, now that we've built this franchise, we can do it in a way that's actually helpful to the franchisees. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, you kind of figure out when you're in the brick and mortar space how to effectively use every square inch of that store. And we're really just utilizing, I would say, about 400 square feet of our 1,800, and just started adding things and trying things and just vetting things out, figuring out a way to drive traffic. With the nature of CBD, it's just tough because social media, which is obviously Google and stuff, is the biggest, easiest way to market things now. And they wouldn't allow us because they said that it was a drug or whatever. And we were just really looking for any loopholes or however we could get in, and the services was that thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yes, I had kind of forgotten that, but yeah, social media, especially Meta, I know they've got their guidelines of what their advertising guidelines, and they've got some certain areas that are really off limits, and they're really strict about.
And you'll see some people marketing that, but it's
hard.
It's hard, but you also have to kind of, circumvent and be a little dishonest about it, and once they find out, everything then gets shut down and you're back at
Yes.
zero. And it was just,
Yeah.
It was just not. It
I
just
think the
wasn't
same
feasible.
thing happens in the network marketing space. I had a little bit of
Yeah.
experience there, so
Yeah.
they're not friendly to that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of misunderstanding on the street about CBD and what it is?
I think the education's really grown over the years. When we first entered that market, people had no idea what it was. Am I going to get high? What is this? Is this make oil? Is it going to help me? We really dealt with all of that. I think now, sitting here 6 years later, it's come a long way. People are actually very educated. They walk into our stores and they see stuff that I get education from customers sometimes. So I think it's less. There's still people out there that don't know everything, but I think there's a lot more openness around it to see the health benefits.
Yeah, everybody kind of has an opinion. In the beginning, 6 years ago, it was tough, but but he gave us an opportunity to almost soft sell it as education. And we went we went to senior centers, you name it. We were doing, almost like a public speaking thing. We'd have, anywhere from, 10 to 100 people in a room, and we were able to communicate that. But now, everybody has a cousin or an aunt or somebody who's seen something, seen some benefit of it, and, they didn't get high and it helped them. So that really started to snowball. And now it's just not nearly as much.
Yeah.
So it's not the 70s stuff that we...
Well, I remember my cousin's husband. We visited, and that's when I think that's the first person I met that was regularly taking CBD oil, both externally and internally. And he explained that he had some injuries, that he had chronic pain, and so he was taking so much. I think an NSAID, whatever one it was. But it was wrecking his organs, his internal organs, and he was at his limit, and it wasn't doing the job. And he found the CBD that enabled him to reduce or eliminate most of that, and let his body heal a little bit. And I'm sure it extended his life.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the float world?
It's a good question. So we owned the CBD store. We saw a lot of people coming in with issues, just like you mentioned, pain, sleep, anxiety, stress. And so we knew we wanted, like Kyle said, to bring in something that we could market, we could utilize more of our space. And it also helped people with the same ailments they were coming in for. So we started trying different services out there. We love going to wellness places and trying all of the new therapies, the cool new biohacking things. It's always super fun. And so we wound up falling upon float therapy somewhere, and we both were like, this is really different. And it really made a big impact on me personally. I struggle with anxiety and panic attacks, and afterwards I felt so calm. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, there's something here to this. So we started going down the path of seeing what it would take to put one in our store. And we started with one tank, turned into multiple tanks, and kind of the rest with history there.
Yeah, my partner in crime here is always, we have a really, I would say, a perfect dynamic to where she's all about go, new. And then I'm the guy that's like, whoa, wait a second. So she's real good at kind of going through and vetting things out and seeing, because most people would get just deterred by that. And you hear one or two no's or just think this isn't possible. And Joanne just has this mentality of, well, let's just see. Let's see how many no's we can get and see if this is feasible. So that's all her. She did that. But I was the guy that put it all together though. So it works really well for us.
Outstanding.
And you have some other interesting services too that you have.
Yeah. So once the float therapy took off, we started seeing this huge desire for services, and people were already there. So we were like, okay, well, can people do all the here? And so we added an infrared sauna and a cold plunge, a red light, PEMS mat, lots of different cool things, all things that we have tried ourselves, found benefits from, and selfishly, we just want the service there so we can use it, but we also
right?
might as well. So But yeah, they've all taken off in different ways, but all bringing that same value to the customer, helping them with what they're there for, right?
Yeah, it's been really neat to see kind of the evolution of all that. Now we sell just as many services as we do products, and for us, it's way better. As a business perspective, the margins are considerably higher and all that, and being able to eliminate, use the machines as opposed to paying like a service provider, whether it be a chiropractor or an esthetician. We kind of did that dance too, and it really just kind of led us down that road, which is why we kind of consult people to just not, especially with branding and things like that, not be as narrow focused and think of kind of with the space that you have, what else could you offer to the customers that are already coming in? And that was really the catalyst for that whole thing.
Yeah. From a marketing standpoint, that idea of, what's your lifetime customer value and the average ticket price, what customers you've already got, they're already bought from you, you've already got a relationship. Much better to grow that than to try to locate new customers. Much cheaper too.
Sure. Yeah. And we really focus on our mentality, or our one, kind of mantra that we had is we don't get customers, we build fans. And we try to really, so whatever we bring the people, at least we've developed some over the couple years, we've developed some rapport with them that they're just willing to try it, and it really has helped take off. So that whole mentality of just not being as transactional has really helped us, and that started from day one.
Nice. Well, we've got a PEMF, Matt.
Yes, we do.
Right.
One that was
Nice.
popular in Germany years ago. I think I don't know if it's okay to mention the name or not, but
Yeah, totally.
Beamer,
Yeah.
the Beamer mat.
Yeah.
We got the Beamer.
Yeah.
And so I think we bought that in 2015, 2016.
Yeah. How
And
do you still use it?
We
You like
use
it?
yeah.
it almost every day. I try
He
for
does.
twice a day. I really try for the twice a day. And but
Yeah.
that's as I think about what you guys are doing, that's a pretty big commitment without knowing if you're going to get benefit from it or necessarily what benefit you're going to get. And for me, it's I'm in the wellness mindset, so it's about prevention. I figure I won't ever know what I've prevented, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what we want. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but if there were a location like you guys have where you've got the red light, I mean that's another thing. One of those red light panels, just like this,
Yeah.
is multiple hundreds of dollars.
Oh,
And
yes.
there's
Yeah.
value there, but it would be nice to try it, or if I had
Yeah.
like a bad workout at the gym and I was really sore, come in for a couple of sessions, whatever. I mean, I just love that you've got the multiple modalities instead of just
Yeah.
one.
And we really did that intentionally. When we first came into the market as a CBD store, we had CBD in the name, and we were pigeonholed into this one ingredient, right? And so then things started coming out like Delta 8 and all these other, things, and people, it was just kind of hard
Right.
to pivot, right? So when we transitioned and rebranded, we were like, okay, we don't want to just do one thing. We want to be able to do more than one thing, and these new trendy, cool things come out in the future, we can add them in, right? So, yeah.
So, what have you learned that you wish you had known back when you started all this?
Oh gosh, so much. I mean, we learn things every day. I think the biggest thing we preach a lot about is from the beginning, really starting simple. Like I wanted to have invest in like these really grandiose like decor and these nice walls and flooring. And in the beginning, it just isn't needed. Like just get your storefront open. Start taking credit cards, start, building that clientele and let your business kind of grow with you. That way you don't overextend yourself in the beginning.
Start simple, get fancy later is kind of another mantra. We have all these catchphrases, but
Yeah.
that's a big one for us. I would say for me, it's just been the overall mentality of not overreacting over a slow day or this, and honestly, just almost a supreme confidence or faith in ourselves that, whatever happens, it's going to work out. We're going to figure it out. And that for me has been a real big, it's been a big shift. I mean, we ran a business that did a shared water space throughout COVID. I mean, what can you throw at me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just the resiliency that we've been able to kind of, gain or get. It's been that's been the biggest lesson for me, I think.
Okay, I got it.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Please.
what did you learn? Okay, because both of you were in sales and you were different companies and
Yeah.
different things. So what have you learned about working together?
Yeah. It's been a process, I think.
Yeah.
Now we love it. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way. In the beginning, it was tough. I think I had to learn, he's not an employee. He's my partner, and so it was hard, you walk in and it's okay at home. Like, if it's a little messy, you walk into your store and you're like, oh my gosh, and just a little more OCD. But I think we've been able to find, like, okay, he's really good at this, I'm really good at that. Let's stay in our lane and focus on those things, right?
Yeah, the biggest thing has been kind of staying in our lanes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I focus more. I'm more face forward, storefront. That's kind of my MO. Or Joanne is. I mean, I don't do any of the back end. So it that just finding what you're strong at and what you're comfortable with, and then kind of going from there. But the two of us have been so. I mean, when we were first going, we were both so focused, and we would ride around at night, after the store would close, looking at other locations and stuff like that. It was just a kind of a passion that we had together, and that's part of having a good partner. People are like, well, what about the marriage? Like, well, you want to find somebody who, yes, looks or whatever are great and all this, but you want to find somebody that has that from the beginning, that kind of focus with you that you align with. But in every facet of your life, in every facet of our relationship. And it's been, we've had to have times where it's like, just stop. Like, we have to stop talking about the store.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We kind of schedule a Monday morning meeting to say, here's what we have to accomplish. That way it's not just this constant obsession over it, and being able to kind of, front brain, back brain, that thing too. It has to be, and that's been one of the biggest things to our relationship, I would say.
Cool. Now it's your turn.
Well, so to that, gosh, I got several actually. To that point, you were both in corporate and you transitioned into your own business. So what was that transition? Did you do any specific preparation for that transition? Was it just you had the skills?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the hardest part was figuring out our health insurance.
Understand
That took some time to figure all that out. But, I think it was just natural because we were already wanting to spend so much time on our business. That's kind of where our mind was. And, at least for me, I know, like, I would be at my job and thinking about the store. And so for me to go all in there, it was natural, what I wanted to do. I think what took some practice is, okay, now I'm doing this full time. Like, how do I navigate my schedule? Where should I spend my time? How do I work on the business and not in the business? And, figuring that out has taken a little time, but I think we've learned a lot.
Yeah, leading up to it, when we opened the first store, I still had the 9 to 5. Jojo had the 9 to 5. So it was all employees. And then once the thing, we always say, like, once your side hustle kind of takes over that, or you can get that income, then it would be time to switch over. It's great because we are a partnership and we are, we're husband and wife. So that has really helped. But yeah, it was a ton of work in the beginning, but we don't make these huge jumps, I would say. We're not quitting everything and then going out. Luckily, the two of us are not scared to work. We don't miss sleep. So it was, a lot of 18-hour days and then going and doing it over again. But understanding that this is temporary, right? Like this small discomfort, it will be worth it in the end. You have to give, you have to get in to get out. That was a real big thing for us.
You have to be uncomfortable to grow, right?
have to be
Unfortunately,
comfortable
sitting
being
in my
uncomfortable.
recliner and being real comfy, it's not getting me a whole lot of places.
Yes.
even though I
Right.
like
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, you just said
Right, and that
comfortable being
applies-
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I think that's a Joe
Absolutely.
Rogan thing. I probably stole that, but it you have to seek that out. Well, I think really like in everything in business and life, growth comes from discomfort. It does, stepping out of that, and willing to learn and willing to lose. And and losses are only losses if you don't learn anything. So, we've messed up a ton of stuff. We bought marketing plans that we thought were going to be we're going to be the silver bullet, and it just wasn't. So you learn, you try things and you learn, and you correct moving forward.
What you just said right there, I wanted to make sure to call that out because for people that are listening, there's multiple themes here that are just going by so fast and they're so important. Defining your roles, knowing who does what and doing it based on strengths, defining,
Yes.
understanding what you're good at and what you're not. And everybody doesn't have to be good at everything. And it's, weaknesses didn't even come to the conversation. I love the fact that word didn't even come up. It's just we do what we're strong at. Testing, you tested, you started out, as a side hustle. So, I don't imagine buying a franchise with just like a toe in the water, but you still had your day jobs, you still had an income. And so you weren't under that immense stress of
Right.
if this doesn't go, we don't eat kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
And, the long-term thinking, I've heard that now twice from you, Kyle. You kind of have to take you said it different words, but you have to take the long view. Things are going to work out, and there's going to be ups and downs, but the big picture is we just keep going forward, consistent.
Right. Each looking at it, if you look at it from a mile and a half away, it looks very daunting. But what do they say? How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time.
Right.
And just putting in these micro goals to be able to kind of, and then now you're moving forward. That's a big thing for us.
And you added one product at a time, sounds like, too. I mean, you're in CBD, and then you add the float tank, and that works.
Okay.
And so now then you say, okay, well, we'll add the infrared or the PEMF or
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We've always baby stepped it and let's add this in. Okay, let's build awareness. Let's grow it. Let's get it to a certain utilization, and then let's add something else.
The switch from franchisee to franchisor. Now that's also significant. Because
Yeah.
franchisee is it's a great model in that, you get all these systems and processes already predefined for you. There's a great little book, if you haven't read it, it's called Built to Sell. And it's like an hour and a half read, but it's basically build your business so that it's like a franchise, so you can sell it. Because if it depends on the owner being there every day, not sellable.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to look at least be cognizant of your exit strategy before going in. That's a lot of times people they just don't think about that.
Yeah.
And everything is finite. How do you plan on what's your exit strategy?
And
Yeah,
a lot
this
of-
transition's been fun. I think one thing that we said is, even just building out this franchise and putting all of our SOPs in place and, getting all of this training and kind of like you said, taking ourselves out of it so this could run by itself. We said, at least we'll have that out of this. It's become a franchisor. Like
Right.
if we, can sell this thing, and like that was the biggest value to us. But when we were at franchisees, we saw a lot. We were a part of a very low entry franchise. I think it was only like $5,000 to join this franchise, and it grew crazy, like 300 people in like less than a year almost. And so it was a big boom that, I think they just weren't ready for. So we saw a lot of, what to do, what not to do. I got to spend some time on the board there, which was great. So I saw some of the back end processes. So we took a lot of that into this new franchise we built. What would we have wanted as a franchisee? What marketing would we have wanted? How much training would we have wanted? And we've really tried to take that mindset into building this franchise and make it very franchisee friendly, not so franchisor friendly.
Right.
Very well done. Very well done. You've touched upon the mental aspect as well. You talked about the confidence and the resilience. And did that come from your past? Did that come from just your focus on wellness and your in previous training, or because that's kind of our wheelhouse, and how we think, and a lot of people just don't look there.
Yeah.
They just go.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've been a confident person, I guess. But like for me, the shift really, when we kind of were in COVID and got out of COVID, I was like, okay, and then you start to see the numbers go up and it's like, you can do this. Like you can absolutely do this. And there's nothing, worst thing that happens, right? That we shut the whole thing down and go back to work for corporate. I don't know. You have to have that. And obviously that's not something that ever enters into my mind now, but it's what's the worst that can happen? It's a lot worse than you wondering, what if you never took that chance? What do they say? You miss 100% of the shots you never take. So for me, it's much more of like, would I rather live with this? You kind of have this balance of fear of failure versus, this regret. And I just wouldn't want to live with regret, and then that's also too, like kind of how we stepped in that whole, keep it simple thing in the beginning, get fancy later. You kind of you're not just going from 0 to 100. You're always kind of moving accordingly,
Yeah.
Cool.
So what's on the horizon? What's next?
Yeah. So we are a brand new franchise. We've finally finished all the training modules and manuals and legal documents. So we are so excited. We have officially launched our franchise, and we are already chatting with people about opening locations. So that our vision there is to get us to 10 locations, get 10 people to join our team and help us grow together and kind of build this brand to help more people.
Wow.
Yeah,
you got somebody on the list, on your list in the Tampa Bay area.
Oh, I think the Tampa market would be a great market.
Yeah, the goal is to blow out Texas, and because we're local, and that way we can kind of help. It's a pretty significant build out, and it's very, I don't want to say technical, but there's not a ton. Like if one of the tanks goes down, you can't call the regular pool guy. So you want to kind of, we want to be there for people. So we're doing it strategically so that we can really focus on. It's one thing to sell a franchise. It's another thing to get them all the way through and get it open.
Get them profitable.
Yeah. And that's the key for us. That's really where we're at right now. We're kicking off the marketing efforts and stuff like that. A lot of the leads and stuff that we've gotten now have just been within our circle or people that have come into the store, which is great because they already know the deal. But that's really where we're at is kind of finalizing all that and then getting these stores open.
So you mentioned, you can't call the pool guy. Are you guys creating some sort of training that you can, so that when somebody buys a franchise, if they don't have the skill set and don't want to learn the skill set to maintain the tanks, that whoever they're going to call can get the training from you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we spent the last year doing. Like every SOP in our business, how do you change the water? What happens if the water, turns this color? And, how do you change a filter? Like all written down videos. We got it all laid out for you. I mean, we were like, man, I wish we would have had these, because there's so many things that we had to sit there on YouTube for hours and hours, or call manufacturers and try to figure things out on our own. And now it's like, okay, we're going to hand this to you so you do not have to stress out if something goes wrong. And of course, you'll have access to us to shoot it.
Right.
Oh, that's exciting. That is exciting.
Yeah.
Anything else come to mind for you as far as what other husband and wife teams or family businesses could learn from your experience?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just to give each other grace in your business, know that you're doing this together and you both have that same vision. So, when things happen, like just remember that common goal and that common vision and why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, we've, and like as a partner, sometimes, you guys know this, have been married forever. Sometimes one leads and the other one, sometimes you're on point, and that can shift sometimes. And it's
Always.
okay, and it's okay, right? I mean, I had knee surgery last month, so I was on my back for 2 weeks while Joanne was running the store, and I felt horrible. But she kept reassuring me that, this is temporary and we're going to get through this. And this is something that, and so you're able to really kind of pick up where needed and things like that. And that's just a real big, just kind of understand overall, that her wins are my wins and my wins are her wins. And you guys are just to get together regardless of who's actually digging the ditches per se.
Cool.
Okay, I got to call out 3 more things that just came to mind that you said that were so
Go for
important. One was family time, right? You guys said, you had to find a place where you stopped and draw the line and say, okay, enough talk about the business, it's date night or whatever. I think in a family business, whether it's husband and wife or multiple generations, there has to be, you have to figure out lines and you have to get specific with it, right? You can't just, you can't give it lip service, I guess I want to say.
Right.
The quote you just said, this is temporary, so big. So I mean, that's like a mantra to put on a plaque on the wall, in my opinion, because everything is temporary, but especially when things get hard, right? It's like when we're kids, we have, we go to the pool or whatever, we're having fun, and those times seem to go by like that, and then the crappy time seems to last forever. And when we're in the crappy time, we think this is never going to end.
Right. You have to
I
kind of
never thought school was going to end.
Yeah.
kind of have to have that stoic mindset about it, right? Like it's just going to be present, be in the moment, and this whole, and it took work. It wasn't something that it was just ingrained in us. It was, you have to work on it. And it reached a point, right? We're at a point now at the business where it is what it is, and people know, and we do really good at what we do, but the work, and I taught this to all the salespeople that I was managing and stuff in corporate. The work is in you prepping yourself, right? Are you, have you worked out for the day? Are you in a good headspace? Are you totally, neglecting yourself? That way you're putting good in so that you can get good out. That was really key for us was, if I come in and I haven't eaten right, or I haven't done this, or my energy's off, or something's going on, and I come into that store, you're bringing, or I go and when we're talking, or I go and, have a terrible conversation, that doesn't help anything. But that's the whole, the whole point is being prepared for yourself. That's the way I look at it. Is all this other stuff is pretty, I don't know, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's almost on autopilot, but am I putting myself in the best possible situation so that I can bring the energy, and make sure to add something to it. You're not bringing stuff down. That was big for me.
Yeah, I know. We had this, I worked in a small family business for a bit, and their love language was yelling at each other.
Yeah,
and fussing. And you don't know how many people would walk in or walk by and just turn around and just leave. And I couldn't get it across to them because they didn't understand the energy that they were bringing into the business was literally eating them alive. They're lucky enough that they were in a niche market that they're okay, but it's kind of like, oh my God, what you could be if we just changed a little bit of the attitude.
or the outlook or something. Fake
Exactly.
it. That's the job. You have to put that on. Yeah.
So you said it took work. Was there a particular resource that you used to do that work? That inner work. Well, you were talking about how you managed your. So you did you brought a big thing from your corporate. You had it there in terms of doing working with salespeople to manage themselves. So maybe that just was second nature to you, but that's like a major key right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did that come from training that you received, or is it coming from inside?
I mean, for me personally, I just managed. That was some things that I wanted to hear. I just flipped the script. If I was
Smart.
If I was the rep, that's what I would want to know. And you, when you become a manager or a GM or whatever, as you move your way up, you just figure out how you would how would you like your employees figure out how you want to be managed and stuff like that. And that was big, because that's what derails all salespeople. Salespeople are just like this, good or bad, right? They're just like crazy, and they're emotional, but you're still dealing, and they get upset over, I didn't get the sale, or we're still dealing with human beings, right? Regardless of how good a job you do, sometimes they're just going to say no, and it's okay. You have to develop that mentality.
Yeah, you have to be detached from the outcome.
Yeah, you do. You have to put in the work. You have to, am I doing the small things? Once again, breaking it down. I got to sell 30 units this month. Well, how the heck do I go about doing that? Well, it's about 1.5 per day, yada, yada, yada. And you really, and from corporate, working in call centers and stuff, it was, all those KPIs that they tracked was outbound calls, appointments set, closes. It all kind of goes through and working like an internal funnel per se. And that did help.
And you manage the things that you can control, right? That's process goals versus outcome goals, right? Because I can control how many calls I pick up the phone and make. I cannot control what the person on the other end does.
Yeah, we say that in the business too. Like, you can sit there and nobody's coming in and say, oh man, this is a low day, it's done. Like, but there's always something we can do. We can jump on social media and post. We can send out a text blast, an email, throw out some yard signs. Like, there's always something that we can control to get people through the business that day, right?
And sometimes all it takes is one person to come in, and it's like they take the lid off the door, right? It's like they unlock the door, like they haven't had anything going on, and then miraculously, and that's part of the confidence part too. Is like, you look back at it. Of course, if you look at each individual day, you'll go crazy, but at the end of the month, pretty much always hit the number. So, and it's only affecting myself. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot, and like you said, some of the things that you asked, some of the things that we did, we started floating. that was another big thing, because we were so, you get so involved in this, and that really started just bringing in some creative thought, which led to solutions, which led to, these other things. And we always say what necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And it's true. If you just have that mentality, you'll figure it out.
So, product of the product.
And giving yourself some space, some space to be creative. Because especially as entrepreneurs, we kind of forget that, because we work 24/7, or our brain seems to be going 24/7.
Yeah.
And to get that just that little slice of heaven, that we can shut everything down. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. That's exactly the definition of float therapy. Like, just a minute to disconnect. I mean, more than a minute, but feel like that. And, we don't take that space for ourselves.
No,
we don't. And so many of us are like these crazy fast-paced lifestyles with 50 notifications an hour, and sometimes you just need to shut it all off, so you can even remember what it is you want and need. And
and remember why you started the business.
What
was it?
Yeah, always remember your why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is it that you needed out of this? And we forget that.
Look forward, manifest that, visualize. We talk about visualization and manifestation in the store all the time.
Right.
Visualize yourself in that tough spot. If you have to have that tough meeting or whatever, and manifest it for the positive. What does that look like? I got the sale. Yay! With that sale, I was able to take my family on a vacation. Well, what does that vacation look like? So it's the visualization and manifestation has been very powerful for us.
Yep.
All right. I can confidently say that your franchisees are going to be in good hands. This is outstanding.
We can't wait, 5 years from now to see where you're at.
Really looking forward to watching your growth. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. So when people want to reach out and find you for information about franchising, or if they're in the Dallas area and they want to come to your store, how do they find you?
AlteredStatesWellness.com. That find out information about.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show
notes.
We'll
make sure we put that in the show notes. And if you could shoot me an email with any social links that you want me to add as well. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we end this lovely session?
And like 40 minutes of words of wisdom here.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
No, I think, if you feel that desire to draw towards something, go explore it. I think that's how we got here. We'd probably still be in our corporate jobs if we didn't kind of just go see what was out there. So I encourage you to go do that as well.
I
Yeah,
love
stay
that.
curious. Just vet things out. Make see if it works. Like I said, Joanne loves hearing no because that's just a challenge for her to get it done. But just don't sit there and say, "Well, I could never do that," or you have this. I think we have this kind of maybe imposter syndrome or appeal to authority where it's like, "Oh my gosh, these business owners, like this guy's the greatest. He's a business owner. I'm not on that level." Like you would be surprised that you are. It's really not, it's so just stay curious is what I would say, and look at things and never, and the key too, right, is never burning a bridge. I'm always big into that, especially in business. It's like, maybe that deal didn't work out, but if but who knows in 10 years.
Exactly.
And that's how we kind of, that's how we got into the CBD thing. It was one of my friends who turned me on to it. He was already in the franchise, and we just had stayed in touch. So that's a big thing, and be open to opportunities. And I will never say no to, I will never say no to looking at a business opportunity at the very least. I'll say no to a ton of things in the end, but I'll always give that time, or at least to try to vet it out, because you never know where that's going to come from.
That's right. And you never know who you're going to meet in that process.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
yeah. And if you dismiss them immediately, it's just not productive.
Right.
Outstanding. More wise words. Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, guys.
Well, we hope to get to Dallas soon.
Yeah.
We're due for a road trip.
We are.